Hi everyone, this is just a really brief workshop on how to perform descriptive statistics and organize datasets for independent and related samples datasets. Now, the example that I used in the lecture was this dataset here, which is on bighorn sheep females, and the percentage of the day that they spent grazing when they haven't got a lamb first, and then when they have got a lamb. So first of all, as a quick reminder of how these data sets should be set up, here in the first column, you have the first bit of information about each of the sheep, which are represented by rows here, and this is the ID. Now, this could be just the tag number of the ear tag, or it may as well be a word, a name, or something like this. So this is just the ID of each of the sheep. And then you have the percentage of grazing here without a lamb, okay? And I would have put that information into the variable view as well. So if we have a look at that, this is just a name where we have to be relatively unprecise and can't use any special characters or spaces, whereas in the label I can put the sort of more specific information that this is the data that we recorded without lambs. And it is a scale variable because this is a number, okay? So percentages are numbers, so they should be set up as scale. And then you have the percentage of grazing with lamb, which are also scale. And importantly, because this data set here contains related samples, and that means we have two measurements for each of the individuals in the data set. Okay, so each individual was used twice in two different conditions, and we're comparing the measurements for each individual between the two time points at which these measurements were taken. Okay, so it could as well be before and after they had a lamb. And this is related samples, and the dataset should be set up like this. The other example that I showed you before is bone density data. So these are bone density measurements for female and male patients. Okay, and you can already see that this dataset is set up differently. So you have two columns here, two variables, one for each individual, which again is represented by a row. You have the bone density measurement, and then you also have the variable of what sex they were, male or female. And if we look at how these variables are set up, so you have bone density measurement, and that is a scale variable because this is a numerical measurement. And then you have the variable sex, which is set up as nominal, and it has been specified here in the values that 1 refers to male and 2 refers to female. Okay, so you've already seen this. So this is how you should set data up when you have independent samples. And independent samples means that each individual in each of the groups that you're comparing has only contributed the one data point in this case. And you're comparing the same measurement between two completely different groups of individual and not the same individual twice. Okay, so that about data setup. And now I'll just quickly show you how you would perform descriptive statistics on each of these data sets. Okay, so let's start with this one here, which is the independent samples data set. And you've seen this before because you did it in the last workshop. In order to get descriptive statistics, we go into Analyze, Descriptive Statistics. We then go into Explore. Now you can just go into Descriptives, but Explore, this option here, lets you specify that you want the descriptive statistics separately for each of the groups. And that is important because that's what you'll need to do for your workbooks as well. So we'll click on that. And then we want to fill in these points here. So the dependent list. So this is the list of dependent variables. And in this case, that's just the bone density measurements. And then we have the factor list. And this should be your independent variables. And they go in here. And then you have a few options down here. You can have statistics or plots, or you can have both. And if you look at plots, for example, you can see what plots it would create. And as a default, it will create a stem and leaf plot, which is similar to a box plot. You could also get box plots done. You can get histograms done. This is the one that shows you the distribution of the data. And here you also have the option to perform normality tests. We'll go through all that later on in the module. Okay, you can keep that as is, and you can also check what kind of statistics it produces. And these are just the sort of general standard descriptives of mean, median, interquartile range, standard deviation, etc. So essentially just leave everything exactly as it is, and then just click OK. And then in your output window, you will get the descriptive statistics for that data set when it's ready. Which may take a while. There we go. Okay, so you have the bone density measurements for male and female patients separately, all the descriptive statistics that you might need. Okay, now if we look at how to do the same thing for the related samples data set, where we have the big orange sheep here, it's very similar. We go through analyze, descriptive statistics, and then explore. However, now we don't really have a factor. What we have is we've got these two dependent variables, one of which was recorded before and one of which was recorded after. So instead of putting one in the dependent and one in the independent list, our independent variable is essentially the names of these two variables here. Okay, so they just both go into the dependent list, and then we click OK. And as before, once it's ready, it'll throw out your descriptive statistics separately for the variable without lamb and with lamb, and you can compare those descriptive statistics between the groups. Okay, and that's what I wanted to show you today. Now what you'll need to go do is to go away and decide for each of the data sets in your workbook whether the data are from independent or related samples, so whether it's two measurements from the same individuals or whether it's one measurement per individuals and comparison of two completely different groups of samples or individuals. And then you need to set the data sets up like one of these, and you could use these data sets as almost like a template to see what it should look like. And then you can start performing descriptive statistics, getting your output tables, and then you'll already be part of the way through your workbook tests. Okay, that's it for today.